Namaste, my dear friends. Thank you very much for your comments, for the inspiration. I woke up today with the feeling that I'm ready for the next spontaneous video. And thank you very much for your warm words and comments in the comment section. And today we'll start exactly by the questions that were asked in the comments. So if you want to have your question answered, just write it. And then in the next spontaneous video, the answers will come. So, from S Sears, thanks from Tampa, Florida. I'm very interested in the healing powers of this mushroom and the history of its use. Does this mushroom have a place in your culture past? Thank you very much, Jesse, for a good question. Well, first of all, I would like to point out that this mushroom was literally connected with all of our human cultures in the past. This mushroom grows almost everywhere. In other words, in ancient times, before ayahuasca, before psychedelic mushrooms, before the main medicine plants which are right now public, our number one use of medicine plants was exactly Amanita Muscaria. This plant had so many different names based in the culture and part of the world where people were using it. And quite often, there were usually code names for it. So people wouldn't call it in the past as fly Agaric mushroom, or they wouldn't call it Amanita Muscaria, but they would have secret names because nobody wanted to share back in the past the secret through which you can get your healing powers, through which you can get your answers, through which you can get your connection with the spirits and God. All of these things were usually under the secret by the priests or the druids or the shamans or whatsoever. So for that reason, when we study the history, we have to see and understand that for this mushroom was used often a metaphor. For example, in Britain, I heard they were using it as raven bread, for example, that this was that exactly magical mushroom which helped to open the high possibilities of the human body and mind. For example, if psychedelic mushrooms, they guide us to the thin worlds where we can see the spirits, or we can see also certain, let's say, when we're on a psychedelic journey, we can easily understand it by our vision, because the colors become more liquid and it expands. Well, with Amanita, it's totally different, because Amanita, it has absolutely no psychedelic effects. That's why this mushroom, when you use it, especially microdosing, it helps you to focus in life. It helps you to be very straight, very, let's say, present moment. So if psychedelic mushrooms guide typically a person to other realms, then Amanita Muscaria, it assists the person to succeed here in this physical realm, in the control over our avatar and our body. And through that, well, in my opinion, that's the most important thing, to reach success here, to find the answers here while we're living in this present moment. So, of that reason, the mushroom has a huge history behind. It is even connected with the first rituals of Christianity. There were specific scientific researches made in which they came to a conclusion that there's a possibility that in past days the Christians who were connected with God, we know until today that on Sundays people use bread or the flesh of Christ, and they use the blood of Christ, that the bread was exactly in those old times was Amanita, and the blood, let's say the wine that are right now people drinking, if you take dry Amanita and you put it into water, the water will also includingly become red, or it will become like pinkish. It will become like the color of the blood or the wine. So in other words, all of our cultures have a deep connection with this mushroom, but it was destroyed. And in my culture, I come from Estonia, and Estonia, it's a very small country located between Finland, Sweden, and Russia, in which we had in ancient times the culture of Vikings. And of course, the Vikings used to use this mushroom for various reasons. Some even say that the Berserk state partly was achieved by using this mushroom. Was it true or not? Well, this is a topic to scientifically study. But I can tell you for sure, by using Amanita in higher dosages can transform and put its energy or into your journey that will just guide your consciousness to other realms. Or it will give you physical strength, which you can use in those benefits that you want. And literally you can get such power and strength that for a normal human will look unbelievable. Because in a daily normal state of consciousness, we use only about 15-20% of the strength of our muscles. So imagine if you will just increase your capacity up to use of 80 or 90%. And at the same time, remember everything around is energy. So if your consciousness is open, you can a lot easier blend the energy and includingly the physical world and realm. So in other words, yes, this mushroom is connected with all of our cultures. And back in my hometown, unfortunately, this knowledge was lost during the 20th century as we were part of the Soviet Union. And at that time, there was a huge destruction of this knowledge. But now we're bringing it back. And now it's a time of awakening. So in my country and in those regions, including Russia, Amanita Muscaria is coming back. And it's time for the West also to acknowledge it of its magical uses, of its unbelievable health benefits, starting from depression, going up to even cancer. It can help because you have to understand that the whole secret of healing is inside of us. And if we have an alliance, a spirit that will help us to use our own powers to heal, well, that's when the magic happens. So you can imagine that you, with your consciousness, can do whatever you want. But less people know how to use the power which they have inside in their consciousness. So here comes Amanita Muscaria, fly Agaric, who will help us to see the powers, who will guide us in this path, not only in a mental way, but also includingly in an emotional way and in the physical realm. So I hope this gives some more deeper insights. And if it's interesting, I'll put together some different stories, how it was used in the past, and we'll make such a small videos about literally the stories of the folklore or from the past, how people were using it. I found one more question. So, Enrique Astorga. Thanks for information. Can you guide us in the use of Amanita as a tea, please? Well, of course, with joy. You have to know that you can use Amanita Muscaria in various ways. You can use it as in a dried way. You can boil Amanita Muscaria in, let's say, hot water when it's fresh, like 2 times. And by this, the red liquid that is remained, that is the psychoactive liquid that will give us a boost. And for tea, if you want to make tea out of Amanita Muscaria, then I highly recommend to use, first of all, dried Amanita Muscaria. Because in dried Amanita, there's absolutely no poisoning or whatsoever for the body, because the only thing which has kind of impact on the physical body in Amanita is when you're using the fresh Amanita and and inside you can find some ibotenic acid. It is not much, but it exists. And for that reason, it has an impact that you could have some stomach ache. But in truth, it's uncomparable with what happens when you're consuming ayahuasca. Let's say ayahuasca, it's like 10 points by the level of complicatedness which your stomach goes through. Then with Amanita, it's maybe 2, 3, so it's quite easy. But if you dry the mushroom, then the ibotenic acid, it becomes muscimol. And muscimol is the main psychoactive substance inside of Amanita Muscaria, which exactly helps us to get its power. It has an impact on our brain and assists to block the reptilian brain. It has impact on the gamma receptors. In other words, our reptilian brain is that, you can say, complex part inside of our body, which creates all of the stress, all of the fear. It creates all of the doubts. It creates all of the addictions. It is literally that part of us which creates from us animals if we cannot control it. And what Amanita does, it helps with muscimol to block the reptilian brain, so our, let's say, soul can control easily our mind and our bodies. So if you want to make a tea, best of all, use the dried Amanita. It has more muscimol. It doesn't have any botanic acid, so it will be very easy for you. And you can use that amount which you want. For microdosing, I recommend to put in the tea maybe half a gram, maybe 1 gram. If you want to make a journey, then it has to be over 10 grams. And you have to know that best of all is to just use it in dry version. Or if you're making tea, then afterwards eat the mushroom which is left inside of the cup, because it's very healing. And not only will be the liquid active and have impact, but also the mushroom itself, the leftovers, because inside of the mushroom there's more than 15 different healing things for our physical body. So if you're interested in finding out more details about the chemistry structure of Amanita Muscaria and which benefit it is, I can make a different video and prepare it. So I hope this will answer your question about the tea. And if you want to make the tea more tastier, you could easily add some honey or add some lemon based by your taste. And sometimes I have friends who not only make tea, but actually like to make a small soup. They use the dry Amanita, because it has a mushroom flavor, and they just add some salt, pepper, and they get a salty Amanita Muscaria tea, which is partly like a soup. So for today, these 2 questions were asked. Thank you, the rest of the people, for commenting. And please continue your questions. And whatever you want to know and discover, let me know. And we'll continue our adventure. And I'll try to film from various beautiful places from around the places that I'm traveling in the world. And now we're in a beautiful Buddhist place. So I wish you, everybody, a wonderful day. And see you and in touch.